And we are live at 5, guys. Welcome to the Van Conant sessions. This week we have Brandon Allen Starr joining us to discuss some amazing history, pure Michigan history, that is. Welcome, Brandon. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You didn't bring no haters with you, did you?
No, I hope not.
Right on.
I'll leave them on my Facebook.
Right on.
They can
Uh,
stay there.
so we so obviously with the pure Michigan history, we want to make this a series. So we'll never run out of stuff to talk about. And Brandon, you get out and explore like I like to do, and obviously Brett's been doing more of it too with the walks and the graveyard.
Explorations.
It's great, man. You find things that are really cool, man. That's for sure.
It's the best feeling in the world.
It is.
And then with metal detecting, I'm always looking for old ghost towns, old settlements. I've found some that are from as early as 1860, which is pretty early for Michigan. And it was a German colony that many people don't even know about. And there's just a lot of history in the thumb that kind of gets discarded, I guess you can say. People don't really talk about it much. And that's all our ancestry too.
Right. Look at that's like the Cadillac the Cadillac house in Lexington. Look at that place, man, built in 1860. That's cool.
I've only been in there once, years ago, like 2011. I went with Rain Walsh and his dad, and that was a really cool experience. It's really, really cool in there.
I've still
The
never been
vibes, you
in
can
there.
definitely.
Yeah.
I
All the
haven't been in
locals
since
say,
they
Oh,
redid it. Like,
same here. They say it's haunted too.
yeah.
Which is really cool. I was able to go in the
I
southern.
love stuff like that too. So
some of
It
the
was pretty
older
neat.
some of the older pictures that are popping up through Facebook on I think it's a Lexington trip. It's like, wow, that's cool, man.
Yeah, I love
Love
those.
the old photos, man. The stuff that's when photography was just becoming available to those some of the wealthier people. Um, so
What's really
maybe
cool is going through these old plat books and seeing names like Van Conant back in the 1800s, all through the Peck area near Yale a little bit. And it just makes me wonder, like you probably know those are your ancestors or not, but I always thought that was cool seeing names that are here now, seeing property that is owned by these farmers like Rout and some of these other big names around here that are still owned by them, that was also owned by them in the 1800s. So it's cool to know like their great grandparents came here and they still own that property today.
yeah,
yeah, I agree.
definitely.
Makes me envy what my great grandparents were doing. No,
Yeah,
but
well, as Brett can tell you, across from him there in Speaker Township Cemetery,
mhm.
pretty much our whole family's in there, and it goes way back to the mid 1800s.
Yeah, that's cool.
And doing some research just recently, I haven't had much time, but I've kind of connected some more dots on how we're related and stuff to the Van Conants. It goes going back to my great great grandfather, his brothers, kids, and we're all cousins and all that good stuff. But it's pretty interesting.
That is cool.
Um,
Yeah, do you still have that book, Pops, about the Van Conants? Like,
Actually,
kind
that
of shows like the
I do.
um
Yeah,
yeah, that
that's more of a history book per se, but it does list at that time because I got it in like the 90s. It lists like at that time there was only like 700 Van Conants in the entire world. Not a
that's
very
so
big
cool.
name. This week, so on this show, obviously today we're going to discuss some pure Michigan history, and I wanted to share this book with everyone. This is so what I'll be reading some highlights that I took out of this book um, about lumbering and the Great Fires, and it comes from this book here, which is a small paperback that you used to be able to purchase at the Hardware and Peck. Unfortunately, we lost Lee Cork. I'm not sure if you'd still be able to get this or who you'd. I Okay, you could probably contact, or I could. Unfortunately, we just lost another Cork. Don Cork passed away. But Don Cork's sister,
Yes.
Barbara Cork, rest in peace, Don. Barbara Cork, Don's sister, is one of the writers of this book. So, and she's still with us, and her sister Janice lives on Mill Street, still in the Cork house. So maybe I could contact them and see if there's a way that we can still get this paperback because it's full of history. There's a picture of my great grandfather at the school back in the early 1900s and stuff. So it's really cool. Anyways, I don't know if we're basically in the same time frame, I think in the mid to later 1800s and what we're going to discuss today. So I don't know which one of you guys want to start. I know we all had something we wanted to bring to the table, so whichever one wants to go
That's
first.
up to you guys.
I think we should start with the fire because everything kind of
Okay.
that plays the biggest part in why all these ghost towns kind of disappeared after.
Well, I can. So, like I said, I've got a bunch of highlights here. I'll start going through them. If you want to interrupt, I can always pick back up. So we'll start with that then, Brandon. Sanilac County had an abundance of the best white pine called cork pine by the lumbermen, much of it from 100 to 300 years old. Hemlock, cedar, maple, beech, elm, oak, ash, cherry, and birch were all found in the area, plus the more valuable white pine. For centuries, the Indians had used the natural resources sparingly, but not so the white man, who dug and slashed and burned with tragic wastefulness. It took scarcely half a century to destroy the vast pine forests, which have become almost extinct in Michigan. After the fire of 1881, lumbering on a huge scale soon ceased, although the owners of the land where trees still stood continued to buy logs from the new settlers. It has been reported that in 1853, a jam of logs on Black River near Port Huron was nearly 12 miles long. These logs were floated down from Mill Creek, Elk Creek, and the head of Black River. In checking and verifying the history of the huge white pine, farmers living in the northern half of the township report pine stumps 3.5 feet and over in circumference. Mr. W. Pathick relates that he's still plowing up the roots of these giants, and that this book's from the mid 70s, so that would be, obviously 50 years ago, uh, referring to the Pathick gentleman there. Uh, the stumps were turned on their side and placed in rows to form a giant wall. Throughout the lumbering era, fire was an ever present danger. Lumbermen had not thought ahead for the future. Logs and stumps left by the farmers added to the leaf litter which had piled up over the generations. Farmers fired heaps of wood and brush on their land, and these fires continued to burn for days. The summer and fall of 1871 were extremely dry. No rain came to put out the fires. As the earth became drier, the fires began to run together. Sunday night, October 8th, 1871, a hurricane formed and carried the fires to places where they had not been. The pine and hemlock were almost entirely destroyed. One estimate of the losses reached $4 million, nearly $100 million today. Many lumbermen were made bankrupt, but there was little loss of life, and the fire failed to provide a sufficient deterrent to the careless practices which 10 years later led to the fire of 1881. No, no rain had fallen for 2 months. The wood was dry, crops withered, wells and even swamplands were dry. The farmers began their fall burning, either unaware or uncaring of the danger. By August 31st, 1881, the fires were out of control and spreading. On Monday, flip the page, just a little bit more left here. On Monday, September 5th, 1881, a cyclone sprang up. In 4 hours, Sanilac County was burned over. Many families sought shelter in Elk Creek. Others survived by climbing down into wells. The fire covered over 1,800 square miles. Nearly 300 people were killed. 3,231 families had property destroyed. And 14,438 people were made dependent on public aid. Less than 3 weeks after it was organized by Clara Barton, the Red Cross began relief operations, the first in North America in the stricken area. In Elk, 45 families lost everything. With the fire of 1881, lumbering ceased existence in Elk Township. Most mills left in operation were used primarily as grist mills. So what do you want to add to that, Brandon? That's a lot of history right there. Pretty cool.
That was great. I think it's really cool that the Red Cross, their first mission was the fire of 1881, where they fixed 2,000 barns, dwellings, and schools, and I think they helped 14,000 people on public aid after that. I want to take in consideration too, if you know what happens when you jump into a well, the oxygen gets sucked out, and a lot of people actually died in their wells.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's really sad. I know you mentioned Pathick's talking about finding big stumps. I thought that was neat because I went to
Yeah.
school with the Pathick,
Okay.
and I was looking at some old plat books, and that's one of the names that were also around here in the 1800s. And it's cool
Yeah,
to,
I worked with a Pathick at Michigan Sugar my very first year in the yard. It was like 2014. Gerald Pathick,
yep,
actually.
he's a
I worked
teacher
with him.
now. Yeah,
Is
he's
he?
a teacher, and I went to school with him, one of the greatest guys, and I think it's cool that he's out here teaching. I don't know if he teaches history. That would be ironic if he does, but that'd be really
Right.
neat. But he's still teaching in our community, and he's still a community name.
I
And that's
That's
one thing I
awesome.
love so much about the history of our area is that a lot of these community names are still here.
it's
Absolutely.
crazy the fire. I can't even imagine. So down here, I posted a picture, I don't know, a week ago. So, obviously, as far south as I am, we can have rain, and 2 hours later, when the sun's out, it dries up because it's like sand, and I mean, there's
Hmm.
always forest fires down here. And the one day it was just spread all through Grovetown and just smoky, it's like, can't breathe. I can't imagine, what happened in Sanilac County at that point. You're,
Right, and seeing it, they said they seen the smoke and yellow skies all the way in New England
well,
in the East
Holy.
Coast. Yeah.
well, yeah,
And I
look at,
believe it because we just recently seen what happened with the Canadian fires and it was
Yeah,
yellow
that's
out
true.
here.
that's what
So I
I
couldn't
Right.
heard.
imagine
Yeah.
a fire the size of the thumb like that. That seemed pretty crazy. But
Right.
they say it started out by Lapeer, and they said they think they know where exactly it started. And could you imagine being that guy now with the internet, like knowing that the guy that caused all those families to lose everything, like
Dude,
that family probably got out of here as quick as they could.
yeah,
Yeah, for real.
crazy.
It makes me wonder also too because I've heard so like one thing I want to get into with history and the Michigan history is that if you go online, you see so many I call them myths, so many different interpretations of what happened. And one of the stories I heard with the fire of 1881 that it could have been caused by a meteoroid. And I thought that was an interesting story. And I can't remember if it was like a Michigan State article or what I read, but when it comes to the actual fire itself, they really don't know how it started or where it started, besides what you see online for people claiming this or that. But
Right.
they definitely can agree that it came from over lumbering and us having all this lumber piled up. And yeah, and that's took down a lot of towns. I know Port Crescent, one of my favorite places to go to up by Port Austin. That was a town of over 300 buildings at one point, little townhouses, and they had like over 500 people. And where the state park is now was the business side, and across the Old Pinnebog River was the residential sides. And I may or may not have metal detected there, not knowing, and I that it was illegal. I found some old wells there. You can find out what the old foundations was, and I found out where the old bridge was, where the workers used to cross, and I found a mercury dime there in perfect
Oh, wow,
condition.
cool. Nice.
And they had their churches at the time right on the beach, and the locals there say in the books that there was elk, bear,
Yep.
deer, all in the water at the same time they were in the water, completely calm, just looking at the fire. And
Wow.
I thought that it was such an interesting story. And after that fire came out, the logging industry, like all the cedars died out and it became a grist mill and then a salt industry until 1930s where it just vanished into nothing now. You don't even know it's there. It's just a campground. And yeah, there's a lot of towns like that. I know you mentioned the river being backed up with logs on Elk Creek. Have you guys ever heard of Cache, Michigan?
Cash?
Yeah.
Yeah, right
Cash.
off Applegate Road there. That was a bustling town at
Oh,
one
okay.
point.
Okay.
And a lot of these towns were huge at the time because of the Pure Marquette Railroad. You have old ghost towns like Cumber, Freiburger, Tyre, Dowington, Austin Center, Birch Beach, and Lexington, Huronia Heights. Like those were once little
All right.
settlements as well. And then you have Buell Township, which was a little town back then created by the Van Camps. And you just have all these little towns that we drive through. The best one I like is Galbraith Line. Like, where did Galbraith Line come from?
Hmm.
It was on Wildcat and Galbraith, a town called Amador, which was created by Amador Fuller, which operated a post office from 1868 to 1943. And the Pure Marquette Railroad would let all their people get there, and that's how it was called Galbraith Corners. So I always thought it was cool because you can still see a little foundation there. And I wish some of these old timers in their 80s and 90s and 70s would talk about some of these things more and kind of tell us like what was here because there's old houses, like farmhouses I used to go in when I was a kid, and they're on the ground now. And when I was
Yeah.
in them, I felt like they were pretty solid. So it's like, why are all these old farmhouses finally falling down after hundreds of years within the last 10 years? Because everywhere
Right.
I'm driving, I'm seeing another house down, and we're just losing our history
Yeah.
one by one.
Yeah.
And if we don't get our local government to put up historic landmarkers for some of these areas, we're going to lose them forever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. I wrote a piece about that. it's a dying culture. You look at all these barns, and I got pictures of a lot of them crumbling, and they just we're letting them fall and cave in or get tore down, like the house out on 53. And
Yeah.
thankfully, there's a few people that actually, save them or rebuild or whatever. But they're getting few and far between, which is pretty sad
Hmm.
actually, because it is a dying culture. I mean, farming is nothing like what it used to be.
Oh, it really is, and it's up to us to preserve that
Right.
entirely.
Yep.
My favorite. Have you guys ever heard of Charleston?
Charleston.
It's a little town outside in Delaware Township, outside of Carsonville, a little north on Bay City Forestville Road. You go around a curve and you have a beautiful brick or stone house, and you have the two other old houses. But that was once an old town too that got destroyed by the fire of 1881. And it's cool to see the three buildings still there. And you drive through there, it's kind of like a ghost town. And you're just like, oh wow. Like you never know it's on a map.
That's one of the coolest things to do is explore old places like that. Brett's been with me a couple of times where we go into an old house, or some of it can be creepy and some of it's really
Mm-hmm.
cool, but some of it's wild because it's like I've been in houses where literally it's like everybody just put clothes on, walked out the door, and left, and everything.
Yeah, I there's a house I've been in like that too. I found bowling trophies from the 1970s, and
Yeah.
we were 17. My buddy fell through the floor into the basement and was flooded up to his chest, an old Michigan basement.
Oh,
And
Oh,
at the time we thought nothing of it. I jumped in the water, we started looking around, and I found this old railroad hat. And my brother was in his 20s. So like we had that railroad hat for at least 10 years and we'd wear it to parties and shit because it was a cool antique hat. But then we went into the old barn part and it had an old combine in there and it still had electricity. And I'm like, wow, if one wire would have been touching that water when we fell in and then I jumped in, it's a dangerous
right.
game in those old houses. So I definitely recommend people don't go in those old houses, especially kids. But at the
right.
same time,
Right.
they were so cool if you know what you're doing. Like there were staircases where the stairs were gone, and I climbed up the sides to get to the top. And just the stuff we did as kids and playing outside, not being on that iPad or
All right.
social media 24/7. But if you guys get a chance, Huron City is the most beautiful preserved ghost town that I've ever seen up there north of Harbor Beach
Huron
off
City, you said?
25. You have to go see it. It has all the old buildings. It's preserved by private investors, and it's beautiful.
You say on
That's awesome.
25 because there's like a
It's on.
place.
I'm 25 north of Harbor Beach and north of Port Hope, right
Okay,
before you hit Port Austin.
I'm pretty sure I know what you're talking about because I've
There'll be
been.
a big water tower that says Huron City on it,
Oh, okay, yep.
and that's a cool place to go. I like it there. But yeah, a lot of people don't talk about. There's an old lighthouse up there. It's Saint. It's Point Arcs Quaz, or however you say it in French. I failed French when I went to school for it,
Right.
but I know the basics. But there's an old lighthouse up there, and that was actually settled by the French in the 1600s. And the Black River, from my understanding, is called the Black River, and it was named by the French, and it was called the Black River because it means beautiful in French. The black does, and you could take your hand, dump it in the river, and almost grab a fish every single time you did it.
Wow, never
So
heard.
it's interesting to know the French was here 200 years before we even settled it.
I always wondered about the Black River because I'm like, shouldn't they call it the Brown River? I
Yeah,
mean,
right. Well, I
but
guess it was brown back then too, just from the deposits, like the
yeah,
natural
well,
clay deposits down there.
what's really cool about the Black River, you think about the logging thing there, right? So 12-mile logging jam. In the spring, how bad it floods, right? So obviously in the spring you can ship logs, for miles.
Hmm.
That's really neat to think about because it's easy to visualize.
That's what they
Uh,
did after the fire of 1881 up in the petroglyphs. Have
yeah.
you guys been there?
Yeah.
So
We
Well,
went
I've
there.
been near there.
I went back in there and seen some of the initial stuff, but at the time there would have been some flooding, so part of it was closed off. You couldn't do all the
hmm
trails or whatever. But I did see some of the bigger.
so
The first there's like a pavilion. I think the first part you go into, and then there's like some big rocks with carvings and stuff.
yep,
Yeah.
and
So
they're supposed to be from 400 years old to 10,000 years old.
right.
And they didn't even know those existed until the fire of 1881 came through. This is 19 miles away from my house as the crow flies, by the way. So I'm always in the state land looking for more petroglyphs because you never know. You never know.
Yeah.
But the fire came through, took all that out. And I guess that's where the Native Americans, they didn't live there, but they went there for their sacred place. And they actually, after the fire went through, the white men put a logging camp there. So I've always wanted to metal detect there, but the Native American tribe that owns it, they are not having it. Not metal detecting that place. But there's a lot of cool history there.
Metal detecting is something that I used to love doing when I was younger. I really want to get another one. Man, it's so exciting. I've always been just to explore and find stuff cool. It's just cool, man. And when you get
I'm
a
always down to go out.
metal detecting, man, when you get into that now, it's because you never know what you're gonna find. I
Well,
mean,
it you always find silver, and it's like, oh, cool, silver. But now with silver being $100 an ounce, yeah,
right,
I'd love to come metal detect anybody's yard before 1964 if you have a house there.
right,
You're
and
always finding stuff in the front driveway, no matter what. Penny something.
yeah, some
Right.
look back in the day, man, people buried quart jars of silver,
Well,
coins, you know. So you never know.
everybody did because they didn't trust the banks in
Yep,
1881. And
yep,
then you have 200 families dying. It's like, where did all that gold and silver go if they had it? Where did all their relics from previous countries where they lived in? Where were all that at? Because
exactly.
like I said, Ora Labora, which is in Bayport, Michigan, which was around in 1860, that was a German settlement, a religious German settlement, and there's still some names here today that came to that settlement back then, and they knew nothing about America, and they built a dock out of pine. So the dock got destroyed. So there goes their shipping, and then they didn't think that they could fence. They didn't fence in their cattle. So their cattle ended up getting destroyed by all the predators and ran off, and then they pretty much starved. And then the fire of 1881 was the end of that, or at the fire of 1870 technically was the end of that. But that's a place that's also owned now by a corporation, and they won't let me metal detect it either. And it's like you have all this history in these woods that nothing is. It's just woods. You know, I'm a landscaper for starters. I'm not going to destroy the environment. And it's just crazy the resistance you get from corporation properties and the DNR. The DNR does not like metal detecting at all. And it's like you guys can throw down $1 million of concrete and cover everything up,
Right.
but I actually want to preserve and donate these things to local museums, and you guys are telling me no. It's crazy the way everything works when it comes to metal detecting.
More out of
Yeah, for
control
sure.
government, in my opinion. That's all that is. Look at the deer
Yep.
population. That's all you need to know.
There's some states you actually need a permit just to metal detect.
Yeah,
That doesn't surprise me.
God
But,
forbid a man might become wealthy because he found something.
right?
Yeah, right.
Don't steal. The government hates competition. But anyways, we're not going political. So I know, obviously the fires we touched on. I think Brett had a story we wanted to talk
Yeah,
about.
yeah, the thing about so mine is about Mary Jane Quinn, also known as Minnie Quay. There's very limited information on this, but I gathered what I could with what I could find. And just as my pop said, if anybody notices anything that I miss or wants to throw anything in, feel free. So as the story goes, by the way, Minnie Quay would have been this is another thing that could have been a discrepancy. It says that she was born in May of 1861, but then on one of the articles I read, they said that she was either 14 or 16 at the time of her passing. So that tells me that they're not completely sure on that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as the story goes, though, she grew up with her family in the town of Forester on Lake Huron. For any non-Michiganders, that's located halfway between Port Huron and the tip of the thumb. Um, Her family owned a tavern in Forester. When she was 15, she fell in love with a young sailor who worked on one of the ships that was docked nearby. Um, there was a little bit of information I seen on that, but it wasn't like really like they didn't know his name or any of the details really. Um, Other than her parents did not want her involved with him or any sailors for that matter and forbade her to see him. When he left, she was unable to say goodbye, left her distraught. She was said to walk through the center of town and then out to the end of the pier and jumped into the icy waters of Lake Huron on April 27th of 1876. Um, she was buried in the cemetery next to Lake Huron, north of town, and her ghost is said to walk the shoreline waiting for her lover. Um, these sources came from lostinmichigan.net. Wikipedia sources that others have stated that she has tried to beckon young girls into the waters. Um, let's see here. And others claim that her gravestone broke open and that her ghost escaped. And because of this, one must place a token on the stone to keep her from following you. Which was on the writingpost.com. And as Brandon had referred to earlier, I had read that a show called The Dead Files, which is a paranormal series on the Travel Channel, had an episode regarding Minnie Quay, season 3, episode 16, which I have not tried to check out yet. But it might
I
be
heard
something you have to pay for. I'm not sure.
I heard it took them a month of footage to make that episode, by the way.
Oh, wow.
How
So
long?
Yeah, that
they're
definitely makes me
30
want to see
days.
it.
How long are those episodes? Do you know? Half hour,
I
hour?
haven't seen it in over 10 years, but I thought it was like an hour tops, maybe half hour.
Okay.
Definitely worth it though.
Yeah, I'm thinking probably like 45 or an hour or something like that. But yeah, that's pretty much all that I could gather of it. But I definitely found that one to be very interesting because I've always been into
Me too.
paranormal stuff. So
So what's up, little dude? So I've read about that a little bit, but yeah, that's pretty much the extent of what I've read is what you just read there. So
right, yeah, like I said, I mean I tried to dig a little deeper, but they're really just every site that I had all had the same stuff. So
So we were camping when I was a kid. I was probably in fifth grade at what's that campground in Forster Campground. And my mom and her friend Sherry were on the beach, and it was nighttime, and they claimed they're the only ones out there. And we didn't even know this story at the time. I don't know if my mom even knows the story now, but she came running back with her friend saying that they seen a girl in the water. And I can't, that's all I remember. I would like to ask her more about the story, but they said that she had a white dress on. I thought it was odd. And hearing this story now, I like it is it's definitely strange. It's like maybe there is a ghost because like you
right.
said, like the story goes, I heard she died, committed suicide because she was heartbroken.
Yep.
so
Yeah.
is there the mini
The white
quay?
dress thing too was stated.
Was it
My bad, pops. The white dress thing was stated in one of the articles I read on an eyewitness claiming that it was a woman in a white dress.
interesting?
I was just gonna say, so the mini quay is the house she lived in, is that gone? Or
It's gone now. At least the
okay.
house that locals have said was the house where the parking lot is across from the bar there. I
Okay.
went in there when I was back at 18 years old and I was checking out the old houses like I like to do, and I felt this breathing on my neck. So I ran out. And when I was running out, I grabbed a random book I seen, and it was a voodoo book. So I went home and I burned that thing.
Yeah, I would have.
And the story I read online was that she walked out of that house past the old prostitute house for the sailors, because that's what it was at the time, the Tanner
Right.
house. And then she walked down that road, which I've metal detected at, walked to the boardwalk, which I've snorkeled at, and then jumped off there. But there's people online saying she lived behind the bar, but that doesn't make any sense because you have the witnesses waving to her from the Tanner house. So that's one
Right.
reason I love history, because you always get different varieties and stories. And then it's
Right.
up to us to kind of pick what we want to believe is truth, and that's the reality we get to pick. So that's
Right.
always a love
It's
in
like
history so much because it's
when
always
it's up
winners writing it.
right. When it's up for us to decide, we always pick the coolest,
Yeah.
the
And
one with the coolest little
it's
twists.
like exactly. And the article on Wikipedia says that she was watching her 2 year old's brother. But when you
Yo,
look at the gravestones, it shows her dying when he was born and he would have been 6 at the time. So that doesn't make any sense. And if you
right.
can't get that right, something that easy where you just like I've done a lot of ancestry and I know my grandparents back to the 15 grandparent back in the 1480s. We still have a house in Devon, Spearshire, England, that is called the Star House, which is made from cobblestone that still stands. And
That's
I
awesome.
had so many stories about being Native American on this side and that where I had to look into, and a lot of it wasn't true. I did find the Native American part with Belle Starr, which was a famous outlaw that killed more men than any other female outlaw, but she wasn't blood. She was married into my family. And it's just these little things that made me realize if you want to get something right, you got to research it yourself and you got to
Right.
look at birth certificates and you You gotta look at marriage certificates and death certificates. If you want to know your ancestry, those are the three things you look at, and you start with yourself and you work your way up. And if you don't know a link, you got to stop right there because that's how you confuse
Right.
people. And a lot of people will
Yeah.
hop on the Wicca, the whatever they are, all these ancestry sites that already have these pre-built family trees, and they
Right.
just insert themselves in, and that's it, and they're not accurate at all. So
Yeah. So
Right.
I've
not
done
to
the
get
same
off
thing.
topic, but it just goes into how much I love history and why I've looked up all these ghost towns in the area and all these stories. And
Yeah.
Yeah, not really off topic though.
No,
yeah, you know,
absolutely,
I guess
because
not.
the uh the ancestry thing, so I've delved into that quite a bit. I haven't really had time, all these other things going on between chasing dollars and my other aspirations. But with my ancestry, I have followed it and built the tree, and I have a lot of documentation. But there is the last what do you want to call it, that I hit, kind of a roadblock I hit, right? So my great grandfather, the one that was a police officer in Peck and the Sanilac County deputy,
No?
right? So he's supposedly one of 15 children. But the issue is there's two females, so he's got two sisters that, according to the ancestry thing, were both born the same year and died the same year. Were they twins? They obviously didn't live to be 96 years old or whatever it is, and both died the same day too. So
Yeah,
there's
right.
a discrepancy there that I haven't been able to figure out yet. I just haven't really taken the time because I will, but it is interesting. So we know he's
Mhm.
at least one of 14 siblings, but probably 15. I'm not sure. Some of them moved away. Some of them we know about. Some of them it's hard to find because they literally moved out of state young, and then they died in a different state. It's harder to find them. Find a grave is pretty cool for that though.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
One thing I like about our history too is that before the fires of 1870 and 1881, all these communities like Palms was mainly Irish, and then you have Parisville, which is the first Polish settlement in the United States. And a lot of people say Canada was the first Polish settlement, but if you look at the tracks and immigration reports, it looks like Parisville was the first true Polish settlement in the United States. So you had all the Polish people there, you had all the Irish people in Palms, you had all the Germans in Croswell, and you had all these different nationalities and cultures within their own areas. And then I'm curious that after the fire of 1881, if people dispersed and moved out looking for new areas, and that really made the diversity happen. And now, I mean, I don't know how you guys feel, but I feel like as being white, our culture, European, is completely wiped out. Like nobody really
Yeah.
celebrates what they are. And a lot of people just say, I'm white. It is what it is. I'm American. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of a cop out. Like, I like to know like what you are. Like I ask people, like, what's your
Right.
nationality? Because I'm
Right.
I'm Ukrainian, and then I'm Polish, and then I'm Slovakian, and then I'm German, and then I'm British, and then I'm Irish, and then I got 2% Portuguese, and then I got 0.02% Ashkenazi Jew. So
Yeah, I
it's
need to
like,
find all out myself. That'd be cool.
oh, do it, dude. I mean, a lot of people will say, oh, they sell all your information to China. You don't want to do DNA tests. But I mean, your information's already out there. Google
Yeah,
it, you can
well, I
find out where
mean,
you live right now. So,
Yeah. So
yeah, do it. It's cool. And then it tells you like all this stuff. Like, it was cool seeing like what you're like scared of because it'll tell you based on your genetics what your fears are. And it's like, wow, that's accurate. Or it tells you what food you like and what you don't like. And it's like, oh, that's accurate. Tells you if you're going to go bald before you're 30. That was accurate.
that's
Like,
accurate.
yeah, everything.
uh,
Yeah, no, it got me too, man. I was like 17 in the water and my mom was on a boat, literally, and we're out on the lake and I'm down on the water, dude, doing my thing, and my mom's like, Brett Richard. I'm like, what? She's like, you're going bald. I'm like, the fuck I am. You're lying to me right now. And yeah, like within a year, dude, it just dissipated quickly. And here I
It's
am.
sad.
and
You
then
gotta embrace it. But
Yeah,
I
oh,
won't lie, dude. I'm looking at
I've
this guy's
embraced
hair.
it
I'm
for a
like,
long
that's a
time.
nice head of hair.
and then some
Never said
people,
that before.
that's funny because then some people are like thinking we're
Uh,
brother brothers. It's like,
yeah,
it's all good though. I mean,
show off.
well, I got hair. It's a little thin, but it's there. Yeah, it's
Oh
funny.
yeah, same. It's
It's funny
just
how it skips generations though, because I've seen this absolutely true now. Because my great grandfather is completely bald on top, right? His son, my grandpa, was just like me, my dad is completely bald on top, and now my next one almost, he's almost
Yep.
there. I mean, it is what it is. You can't do much about it. I guess you can. I guess you can regrow hair now. They do that, but I don't know. I ain't too worried about it. I got
Nah, I ain't even worried
Dude,
about it. I feel
I
like it's
swear, once I accidentally was going to a wedding and I cut my hair and I told the barber, just cut it short. He just sculpted it completely. My
right.
hair never grew back the same after that. I was like 19, 20 at the time, and that was it.
Yeah.
I
So
still blame my Mick hats for my decline.
yep, I
Wear,
wore a lot of hats
wearing the
too.
wearing the Mick hats, man. Before I ever wore hats, I
No.
actually was like opposed to hats growing up. I was like, no, I look dumb with hats. And then just out of nowhere, I started always wearing hats. And no, like I said, I do blame McDonald's because I worked there and worked quite a bit, so I was used to having a hat on the noggin, you know.
That's all
Mhm.
the grease in the air clogged the pores, see, and then your hair
Yep.
doesn't go back. So,
That'll do it.
anyways, what other Michigan history you got over there, Brandon? Anything today?
I always wanted to talk about. You guys ever been to Beard Hills
Beard?
Yes,
by
yes.
Port Huron out there? Do you know the
One,
town?
twice.
Okay. Do you know the town Ruby?
Yep.
Yeah.
Ruby, the owner of Ruby, well, not the owner of Ruby, but who was it? What's the name on it? Ford? Is that the family that owns that horse ranch out there or had? Yeah, I think it was Ford. It wasn't the automaker company, but another Ford that was really rich. But that dam out there by Port Huron, he actually put that dam in there for his own private duck pond. And Ruby was a town that was touching his property, and he actually bought out the entire town and made him move it to where Ruby's at today.
Oh wow.
And I'm
Oh
like,
wow.
wow, this guy has a lot of power. But not to get off, like, to start talking about that. But the reason I bring up Beard Hills is because I've spent a lot of time in the outdoors on that land, on that state land. And you don't see any birds. You don't hear any animals at all. You see no rabbits. I've stayed the night out there 3 times. Didn't sleep all night, woke up in the morning, walked back home, still didn't see anything for animal
Yeah,
life.
I've
I thought
I've
that
wanted
was
to
weird.
stay out there.
And they have found a skull that dated pretty old back there. And the reason I bring it up is I personally think you don't hear much history about the Native Americans in Port Huron, but they had a bunch
Burial
of Native
grounds.
Americans here. And I'm wondering if Port Huron is kind of sitting on one of those Indian grounds
Yeah,
because
that could
that's
be
been fought
possible.
over since the 1600s with the French and the British. Like there's a lot of history in Fort Gratiot and Port Huron.
Right.
Definitely.
I always thought that was interesting and just weird vibes. And I sleep out here on the Minden State land. If I'll go out there, I don't get that feeling. I don't get the feeling of being watched or scared or any of that like you do in Beard Hills. Like
Yeah, I definitely, and I've only been during the day to Beard Hills, but it's
to
definitely
the big
got an
cliffs,
aura about
probably
it.
the big
Yep.
cliff spot.
Yep.
Yeah, where everyone throws their trash.
Yep.
If I lived in
Everyone
Port
goes there,
Huron,
and
I'd
that's where I
start
went.
a group to pick all that up. But I've seen the people of Port Huron not really respect where they live. So it's like you clean up your own mess.
Yeah. And I mean, how long would it take to just be right back to where it was?
Exactly. Yep. Just get destroyed again.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. People don't care. They just throw their trash everywhere. I see that all over. And down here is
Uh,
horrible.
I'll go
Just
so far on state land and you see it, and it's like, how did this get here?
did you
And
ever find out anything about that stuff you found out in the middle of
the DNR contacted me and said they were going to look at it, but now that you bring it up, I should go out there and see if it's still there because I am pretty confident it's a meth lab. And the fact that I seen it from Google Earth means it's been there for at least 5 years now. And the stuff I seen, I just didn't want to touch anything. But it was like pots, pans, like stuff you wouldn't bring way out
Right.
there on state land by foot. Like I'm an athletic man, and I was huffing and puffing by the time I got out there because it's like it's a bog. So that in the
Right.
wintertime, it's in the summertime, you might not even be able to get out there until it dries up. So it's like how they got out there. I finally looked at a map and they went through a private gravel company property. And then it looks like they took a little trail that could have been like a low growth area. And when I looked at the aerial maps, it looks like a low terrain area they went through. And
See,
that's when
stuff
they
like
said,
that's
like,
so
damn,
fun. Like doing your
oh,
own like
dude.
little investigation, you know? Like,
Mhm.
yeah, that's good
Yeah.
stuff.
Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy.
But yeah, that's how I like spending my time, just looking at old historic areas like that and finding stuff. I found old houses on state land too that are pretty neat. And it's like, oh, I wonder how long ago someone lived here. And then you look at some cans and you see like 2005, and you're like, wow, this place has only been gone for 15 years, and this is what it looks like already. History
Right.
and nature sure takes over quick.
Well, that and then people
Absolutely.
get in there and party and trash places and bust.
Yep, busted up.
One house that Brett and I went to, the garage was full of stuff. There was a barn full of stuff.
Oh man, that was an odd one. That was
The house was,
like we talked about, like someone just kind of up and
yeah,
I mean you could tell that there was some clear signs of they were getting some stuff out of there, but there was a lot of stuff in there like they just left.
yeah, and
Maybe they
then
rented it and then the farmer took it over. And a lot of these farmers don't give a shit about these old houses. They once
yeah,
they're
Right.
condemned, they
whoever,
just condemn them. They don't repair them while the renters live in there, unfortunately.
yeah,
There's a house on
whoever,
Kilgore Road I'm about to go in because it's been abandoned forever since I was a kid, but it always looked like it was preserved, so I kept off it. Well, now the front door is wide open, so it's like no trespassing signs aren't there. The door is open. I'm going in
Well, let me
Monday
know. I
probably.
might go with
Next,
you.
okay, hit me up next week when it's warmer, and me and you will go because it's right on
All
Kilgore
right.
and Stilson.
Yeah,
And
bet.
right
I'm
on.
down.
I'm down. Check it. I'll pick you up.
This place that I'm
Thank you.
talking about was on or is on Bricker Road, uh,
You.
Ooh.
between Galbraith Line and Peck Road. Matter of fact,
Where
there's Bricker Road.
do you know where at in between?
Yeah, I
That's
can't.
5 miles.
Yeah, I can't think of the name of the road it was on, but it was on a corner,
Okay.
so you can't miss it if you go by it. I'm sure it's still there.
Right.
Place like people were in there, obviously trashing it, busting windows out, toilets broke, the fridge is flipped over, but there's stuff everywhere. It's
I
like
want to check it out.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah,
that
it was cool.
cemetery? You know that cemetery on Bricker Road?
yep,
I was driving by that and I had this Ghost app when I was 18 and I had it playing and it's supposed to pick up random words, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
driving by the cemetery and it says cemetery. I floored it so fast, dude. I was going like 50 at the time. I'm going 75 all the way to Peck Road by the time I got home, went to Kilgore. I'm like, that is weird. And then my dad's like, oh, probably his GPS located and knew you were passing a cemetery and said cemetery. I said, okay, that
yeah.
makes a lot of sense. But
When I
Yeah.
was
I've
in,
had some weird things happen, like Buell Hills, the trailer park. You know where that's at? I
yeah,
was
Yep.
driving home,
Yep.
passing that one day. It's downpouring. I'm like 16 years old. A lady in a white dress runs out in the road and she's spinning like this, like just spinning like that in the road. And I swerve a little bit. I go home. I get my brother, tell him what's happened. We get in the truck. We go look for her, and there's nobody. Until this
That's
day,
crazy.
like it all happened so fast. Like I think I seen a white dress, like an old school white dress, and it made me think, like, was that a spirit or was that somebody trying to commit suicide, acting all crazy? And I just completely like chalked
Right.
it off as a spirit, and just that was it. But just weird stuff like that I've had happen in our local area. It makes you wonder, like,
well, here, check this out, right? So you just tied two people together with the Bricker Road Cemetery and Buell Hill, right?
uh-huh.
You know who lives at Buell Hill, Brett?
Yeah.
His dad's buried
Yeah.
on
And then
Bricker Road.
his dad is wow,
Ben,
that is a weird connection.
It is
Ben,
odd.
Ben Sweet and Bob Fletcher.
Yeah, Brandon might even know about that story. I don't know.
What story is it?
Bob
Um,
Fletcher. You ever heard of Bob Fletcher murdering two people and his wife and then killing himself in that graveyard
Uh-uh. How long ago?
in the late 90s, 98,
Wow.
I was like 3, right? So it was like,
3 or 4, yeah. Yeah. Well, ironically, I was quote unquote best friends with his son, and I'm actually really good friends with his other son that lives out in Colorado that we've had him on, Phil Fletcher.
yo,
Anyways, his dad's buried out there, and so yeah, that's a story that we may we may actually talk about with Phil one of these days to bring out a little bit more about it. But yeah, I don't know if you can really
Interesting.
find much about that.
yeah, I don't know if you can. I think I tried to find because when me and you looked it up years ago, Pops, when you lived on Croswell Avenue, we found a clip of Benny in the back of a
Yeah,
truck, and I have not been able to find that. So I need to do some research to see if I can, because I remember finding that like one time with you, and I have not been able to find that since.
We should start a podcast with all these local murder stories because like I just discovered one in Lexington with this Doug Bowers guy. back in the 90s or 80s or 70s or something. I can't remember. And just looking at the information on it, it's like, to me, it was like, did his ex-wife do it? Like, because there's just like all this fraud possibility, and it just
Yeah,
makes you
right.
wondering. You look up information on it, you don't see much about it, and no disrespect to any of our police, obviously, but I have heard from a state cop that if you wanted to commit or you wanted to kill somebody and make it look like a suicide, Sanilac County, for some reason, is the place to do it.
Mm.
And I never really understood what he meant by that. But what I'm kind of thinking what he meant by that is that we don't have the resources to actually investigate some of these incidents. And it's easier to just chalk it off as a suicide than it is to say
Right.
it was murder and have the public panic. I
Oh,
mean, that would be wild. So there's a lot of stuff like that going on in our area. Of course, there's going to be a lot of ghost stories, you know?
Absolutely.
I was gonna.
Yeah, I'd be down for that
There
though.
was, yeah, actually, at one point I had considered that as well, and I started taking notes. And one of the people was Ed Donnelly in Peck. You know, actually, recently had come a post that I made a couple years ago on the Peck site has come back up, but
Mhm.
dispute got some more interest kicking. He lived across from the Penfield Tavern it was at the time in that
Yep,
little
I know
street
exactly.
there.
Was that the drive-by shooting?
No, he was a little old fella. I
Oh,
think.
that's the one that got punched by that other dude or
Yeah,
killed.
well, the dude was trying to rob him, and they got in this little spat or whatever, and the guy basically beat him up enough that it killed him. Got away, and my buddy lived down the street at the time, and he had commented on that. He said him and one of my other buddies, he said it's odd because we were on my front porch till 3 in the morning that night and never seen anything, but it happened that night.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened is he would go to Penfield every morning for breakfast, and he didn't show up that morning, and they went and found him dead. And leads up to I was actually in jail with the guy that did it.
Oh
It was
wow.
like 3 years later because I was a teenager and did
He
stupid
confessed to
break.
it?
Oh yeah, I mean he was caught. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know if he got. Well, obviously that's 30 years ago now almost. So I don't know if he's probably not even in prison anymore. If he, I'm not sure.
It's
But
wild. I
It
think we are
is.
way too lenient
yeah,
on criminals. Big
oh
time.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, more stuff we can get into, but let's definitely keep the history series going, and we'll just
Oh yeah,
keep in touch
definitely.
on more topics to cover. And
Yeah, because there's a lot in Michigan, especially you get in the UP and you start talking about Copper Harbor and all the copper mines that were there before the white man even came up there. And you're like, well, how did these Native Americans mine all this copper, and why aren't we finding any copper artifacts from them? It's like, where did the copper go? Like, it's just weird stuff like that that makes you wonder, do we know the truth about the history of our state, country, life, world? Like, all of
Man, Mackinac Island is one of my I can't say obsessed with it because I don't know as much about it as I should if I were to say obsessed, but I find Mackinac Island and city to just be phenomenal. I think it's so cool. I'd love to learn more of the history and
it.
yeah,
Hmm.
stuff like that there for sure.
I was actually just going there because I've been there several times, and Fort Mackinac is just amazing history. That place, obviously built by the British. We ended up taking it over. What's up, little dude? How are you?
Hello.
Oh, lay down, buddy.
And yeah, that's amazing history because you can go through the fort and see the way it was when the British were there. It's just really cool, man.
I've been to Fort Mackinac, or what is it? What's the Mackinac City part? That's
Okay.
pretty neat.
You never been to the island, man? That's the coolest thing.
Never been in the island
That
yet.
dude,
Oh
that's
man,
like
it's so cool.
it's like a magical place when you go there. It's just wild because it's all
It
horse and
really
buggy.
is.
It's like old school still.
Sarah Burris, which by the way, thank you for watching, says love Copper Harbor.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Copper Harbor is my favorite place by far.
I've been through a lot on the UP as well and up to Whitefish Point,
Yep, that's right there.
which we were gonna. I would like to have done a show on the Edmund Fitzgerald. We'll get around to it maybe on the anniversary next year. I think November 10th. I think we just missed it this year.
Hmm.
Um, but obviously the bell from the Edmund Fitzgerald is in the museum there at Whitefish Point. That's
I
very
think I've
cool.
seen it.
Yeah.
There's a lighthouse there too, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yep, I went there. I didn't know that was the Edmund Fitzgerald Bell though.
Yeah. Right off the ship because what they did is they went down and they had the newt suit that they used to dive down, obviously 500 foot deep to retrieve that and replace it with a bell with the 29 names on it. So yeah, that's really cool. Seeing that in
That's
person.
cool.
and the newt suit they used to dive to get it is in there too. So that's
I seen they rang the bell 30 times when the guy that created that song died, Edmund
oh,
Fitzgerald.
okay,
Oh
I
yeah,
thought
Gordon
that was
Lightfoot.
neat.
okay.
Talking about bells, I wish that's something we bring back to society is having all the church bells, like
Yeah,
because
Yeah,
they
I don't
say they
remember the
give off a
last time.
frequency that is supposed to make you naturally feel good. So that's why towns would always lay off the church bells. And then I'm not sure why they stopped that whole tradition, but it kind of abruptly stopped sometime around the 1930s.
yeah, they got some electronic stuff now. I mean, like the one up here in Grovetown, they play chimes on Sunday, but it's obviously not real bells. It's you know,
Hmm.
there's probably not many left doing that, but
No, everything is kind of now just a throwaway society, and
you know,
there's no more culture, there's no more history, and there's no more really anyone caring about those kind of things. And
yeah, it's
there's a lot of
unfortunate.
cool things that we've had in our community that we don't have anymore. Like I didn't know we had a Polish festival in Parisville, and it makes sense because that's the most Polish place you could be in Michigan. And I go to the Polish festival every year in Boyne Falls, Michigan, and it is dying. Like those
Really.
people up there, Boyne Falls, I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's always been an old time community. Boyne Mountain and Boyne
Okay.
City, always an old time community forever. And now it's a bunch of younger people that are just living in their houses that are kind of running down, and they're not fixing them up, and they don't care about history, and they're not having kids. And the whole culture up there is dying. Like you talk to some people and they have no interest at all in the culture. They have no idea the history that's in the area, and they're not even going out to the local festivals. And it just it's discouraging because you would think that's a time for the whole community to get together like they used to in Croswell. Do you know where? Well, clearly everyone knows where McDonald's at, but you know that little island that's in between the
Yeah,
school right
Goat
across from the
Island.
school
Yeah,
there. They used to have goats there, and every
yeah,
4th of July they'd get together and they'd party and they'd drink and they'd have a good time. And it's just stuff like that, which we still did as a community. Like we have our festivals, but it's not the same. You know, it's not the same feeling as it was before social media and before cell phones. Like I remember that feeling as a kid, going out, spending time with people in your community, and it was just a different feeling. It just felt more genuine. Like you were more
Oh yeah.
interacting, I guess, with other people than just going there watching your kids on your cell phone or whatever it is. Like
right.
I don't know, lots changed. But one thing we haven't talked about, which should be talked about if we're talking about the thumb of history, is White Rock. Have you guys ever been to White Rock?
I just
I have not.
I've been there, but I this year I actually did some reading there on the little monument where you look out
Yeah.
at it. I'm like, wow, that's pretty dang cool,
I
man.
didn't want to tell anyone, but where I find my old artillery shells, that's
Yeah,
White Rock. When I
yeah,
do underwater snorkeling, and that's because in the after World War II, they used to use that rock as target practice, and that rock
Uh-huh.
used to be the size of my house. And after World War II, they bombed it so many times that it's just a little rock now with a bunch of seagull shit on it, and that's where I find my old 50
right,
cal uh, anti whatever rounds out there. And I'm just hoping
Hell
I don't
yeah.
find an actual bomb one of these days. So I'm always cautious when I go out there. But the
right,
history of that place is cool because it's called White Rock because the Native Americans and the white man had a boundary there that the white man
yep,
was not allowed to cross. And finally, the white man, I don't know if they tricked them or what, but they agreed to sign a treaty that white men could come into northern Huron now. And they said, whatever you do, you can use our land, but do not go on our rock. It's very sacred. What do the white people do? They have a
yeah,
damn party on the rock and it gets hit by lightning.
Yeah.
They all die.
yeah. I read that. I read
So
that.
I
Yep.
don't know, man. Like when it
Uh,
comes to Native Americans and their beliefs, there's a lot to it, and there's a connection with nature that humans have that you do not cross, and that was strange. Coincidence? Say what it
Right.
is, but the
right.
Well,
plaque will tell you all about it if you ever go.
and as far as the history goes, obviously the worst part about it, if we forget about history, we're doomed to repeat it. That's just it.
Mm-hmm.
Almost seems like that's why we're kind of forced, quote unquote, into purposely forgetting it.
Yeah.
That way they can run, well, they, quote unquote, can run over us with things that people are ignorant of because they didn't pay attention, or
Yep.
Right.
it was cut off so you couldn't learn about it, that type of thing. So,
I feel like if you take away someone's history and you take away their culture, you're taking away their identity, and then you're
yeah,
going to have an identity crisis disorder you don't even know about. And it's probably going to come in the form of anxiety, depression, not fitting in
Right.
because yeah, you're not fitting in. You don't know what you are.
Yeah, you
How are
don't
you
have
going to fit
you
in
don't
with people where you don't know where you are? And I'm the most accepting person there is. And I have noticed in my lifetime that cultures just naturally do better with their own people. It's like
Right.
that in all these other countries. You look at Europe and you see how amazing their culture is. Well, yeah, obviously, because they are still carrying on traditions and they don't want to wreck their family names. Where in America, you get some of these younger kids, they don't give a shit about their family name and they'll go off
no,
posting whatever, acting like hooligans online. And for
I
me,
know.
being younger, that last name is what kept me out of trouble. I didn't want to ruin my dad's last name. Simple as that. I didn't want to be the one in the family, the black sheep, to ruin everything, you know?
Right.
And we
Right.
don't have that in our culture anymore. And that's why I do love history so much. I push that on my kids. Like my kids can come in here right now and they'll tell you they're Polish, they're Irish. They know.
Yeah,
It's
right
been
on.
Right.
ingrained into their brain just because we listen to Polish music here and there and we listen to Irish music here and there. And when it's St. Patty's Day or whatever day it is, we really emphasis on the importance of those days.
It's too late on the Van Conant side. So there's some big scars in that name from some guy.
Hey, well, there's scars in all the names,
Right.
and it's just up to us to not continue on some of those scars.
Yeah, live and learn, man. My great
my
grandfather was a
my
police
great
officer, and
grandfather no my great great grandfather died. His name was Benjamin Franklin Starr. Died fighting over property
right.
land because he pulled a gun out to a ditch surveyor and he shot him and got killed. And then his dad, my great great grandfather Christopher Columbus Starr, also got shot and killed fighting over property. So
Wow.
you look at my family and you go to my 15th grandfather, like I said, built a cobblestone historical monument. He was in the Royal Admiral Navy Fleet for the British Empire, turned his back on him, went to Ireland, and was involved in this Catholic crusade thing that happened there, and then came to America and had a son named Moses who fought in the Revolutionary War, who lived till he was 113 years old.
Wow.
And then I'm looking at my family documents and they always named their kids after brothers. So I could explain all the names right now, but the main one is Benjamin. It's a Benjamin Starr, Benjamin Webb. There's like three of them. There's a bunch of Moses. And you look at their names and like you can see documents. They were Quakers. They were high up people in the community. There's a bunch of information all about them. And then you get to my great great grandfather, dies fighting over property. Then my great great grandfather dies over property, and he had a son who was my great grandfather who died. My great grandfather ends up being a drunk, ends up raping some girl that we just found out about through me looking up ancestry, and got charged when he was 18 years old and had twin daughters in California. And then
Wow.
my grandpa was a hardworking Chrysler man, your typical blue collar Democrat back then. And my dad's the same way. And it's like, I had 15, point being is I had 15 generations of high standard wealth property. Like I'm looking at property records, like 200 acres back in 1860, sold in Pennsylvania for $200, like stuff like that. And all it took was my great grandparents, my great great and my great great, or my great and my great great grandparents to die fighting over property, and then the bloodline kind of went downhill a little bit after that. Not bad, but
Right.
like my great grandfather, he was a hellion because his parents died when he was one. Like it is what it is, and there's still like brothers in that family that were just like not up to the family name that you think would have been if something like losing a father would have never happened.
It's
So,
some of the longevity in our past family is amazing as well. My grandmother's sister just she just passed away a couple of years ago. She was 100 years old,
oh
and I
wow,
mean, she drove until she was 95. She took care of herself basically up to the end. She was an amazing lady. Had her 100th birthday, and a few months later went to sleep and never woke up. Went away peacefully, and amazing the difference in genetics. Because her sister, my grandmother that raised me, died 40 years younger than her.
oh
She had
wow.
all kinds of health problems. Died at
It
61.
it is interesting. I've always hated how our government will tell you life expectancy is going up, but I see all my friends' parents dying in their 50s and 60s, and I don't see as many 80s and 90-year-olds around as much anymore. And that's because of what I believe is processed foods came out in 1960s.
A
So
lot of
those
stuff.
people are
You know,
60
yeah.
years old now eating processed foods from day one. And I go into old cemeteries all the time and I'm looking at all these names and I'm looking at their birthdays and death dates. And I feel like if you made it past the age of 3, maybe 5, you usually lived until you were 80. A lot of those people are 70, 80, 90 years old back in the 1800s. So how are they saying now that we have all this better medicine and all this, but yet people are dying in their 20s and 30s from heart attacks? Like it's
Right.
just blows
Right.
my mind how much we're lied to about just everything.
Definitely
Yeah.
another
Just
show, Tyler.
everything. Yeah, anybody go in a cemetery and prove me wrong. Everybody, it seems like they lived old as shit back then.
Well, definitely a
And that's
lot.
women. Women was one thing I noticed. They seem there's a lot of women died young, and I would assume that's because of childbirth. Because when I look at their gravestones, I'll see 6 or 12, 14 gravestones right next to them. It's like, whoa.
Right.
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 But
Well, listen, we filled an hour, Brandon. Appreciate you coming on, and we will definitely do this again. We'll carry this on and have to figure out what's next because we definitely want to keep this going. If you're willing to
yeah,
participate.
figure out to do some screen sharing and add videos for context so people can actually see on the
Yeah,
screen a
yeah,
little bit of
absolutely.
what's
Because
going on.
I can do that as well. I can do the screen sharing on my end from my iPad or my computer,
You
whatever.
know, we can go to all these ghost towns and take pictures because I know where the settlements are. And
Heck yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
maybe we can do that. So we'll keep everybody informed, and we appreciate you joining us, Brandon. And
all right, anytime.
we're
Thanks
gonna
for
cut.
having me.
All right, cool. We're
Yeah,
gonna cut this one
absolutely, man.
short, and we'll be in touch. Thanks again, Brandon.
Sounds good. Have a good one.
All right, you too.
Rock on, man.
Cool. Well, that was definitely an hour full. So
Right?
very good though. Actually, excellent though. So we'll definitely keep this one going. And obviously we'll be in touch with Brandon, and we appreciate his time. And all
Yeah,
of you for
absolutely.
tuning in as well. And we made it through Snowmageddon. Well, not really. We're in the first day of it, so who knows? But looks like we actually made it through this one, anyways. Who knows what the night's gonna bring? So
Yeah, hopefully you guys keep your power and all that good stuff. We're a wee bit nervous over here too for the same reasons.
right on. Yep. Well, listen, and everybody, we appreciate you tuning in, and hope you'll continue to do so and share and get a hold of us if you'd like to join. We're still lining them up, waiting on to hear back from a couple more. Um,
Absolutely.
I'll keep you guys informed. And at
Thanks
some
again for being here, Anthony. I've seen you commenting and we appreciate you, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't wait to carry on with this one. And I've got some other, like I said, inquiries out there, but I don't want to give anything away until I know for sure whether the people are going to join. But
Right.
but I've got some discussions going on with a few different people. Let's say one of them is halfway around the world, so we're hoping we can get him on. Um,
Yes,
anyways,
that'd be sweet.
we'll keep you informed either way, and get a hold of us. And we'll at some point we want to get back to a little bit of some laughter is best medicine in the end, or somewhere in the show. It's always good to laugh.
Oh yeah.
In the meantime, I've been thinking kind of heavy on my mind to throw in the end of the show that what for all of our male followers, young and old, always be a man of your word. When you say something, stand by it, stick to it, don't let people down. I think we should all do that and be a better world.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
Words of wisdom. Just be a man of your word, man. That's all we need to do. Make a better world for all of us. And anything to add to that, Brett?
Um, no, I mean I agree that I feel that it's very important that whether it's something professional or whether it's just everyday life, if you say something and let's just say you can't follow through with it, then communication is key, you know? Let
Absolutely.
someone know because
Yeah.
life isn't perfect and things happen.
Yeah.
Obstacles pop up all the time, but that's why being a man of your word, you open your mouth and let that other person know that
Yep.
something's going on, you know?
Absolutely.
That's pretty much all I have to add there.
Communication is key. So, with that said,
Absolutely.
again, we are gonna sign off today. We thank everyone once again, and we will see you next week. One more before I let you guys go. Oh, right. Next week we have Mr. Tyler Ruski on to discuss his top vocalists and our top guitarists. We got to get working on that. And looking forward to it. We will see you next
Oh
week
yeah.
on the Van Conant Sessions. Peace from Grovetown.
Peace from Peck, Michigan.
I hear